Welcome. This presentation follows how two hydrocarbons, oil and LNG, evolved from single local wells into a global energy system, shaping economies and geopolitics along the way. Over the next slides, we'll trace technological breakthroughs, market power plays, crises, and innovations that turned localized resources into globally traded commodities and ultimately rewrote the rules of energy trade. The oil industry began chaotically with Drake's 1859 well, where private land rules led to frenzied drilling and rapid reservoir depletion, and then consolidated under Rockefeller's strategy of focusing downstream control. Standard Oil's grip on transport, refining, and marketing turned an anarchic patchwork into an integrated industry and set the stage for the era of major oil companies. A handful of multinational firms, later dubbed the Seven Sisters, created a stable world oil order by coordinating supplies and prices, as shown on the map. Agreements like Acna-Carry turned cutthroat competition into managed markets, using mechanisms such as output control and profit sharing with producers to stabilize revenues and secure long-term access to crude. A persistent problem for gas was that large volumes found far from markets were simply wasted, so liquefying gas into LNG, shrinking its volume by about 600 times, emerged as a practical fix. Early experiments like Comstock aimed to ship LNG, but faced setbacks, including regulatory rejection, highlighting the safety and coordination challenges that pioneers had to overcome. The methane pioneer proved transoceanic LNG could work. A 17-year contract opened the British market and forced engineers to solve chemical incompatibility with British town gas. Continental Oil's reforming process converted imported LNG into a usable form, and the successful shipment marked the beginning of commercially viable international LNG trade, despite later shifts in supply routes. Producer nations pushed back as majors squeezed margins, and in 1960, countries like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Venezuela formed OPEC to reclaim value. That collective response flipped the balance of power by coordinating output and influencing prices, turning producers from passive suppliers into strategic actors who could collectively shape global oil dynamics. The 1970s oil shocks shattered assumptions about stable energy prices with massive jumps after geopolitical crises shown on the chart. Posted prices surged in 1973 and again in 1979, prompting nationalizations and a dramatic global transfer of wealth that forced consuming nations to rethink supply security and industrial planning. High prices and geopolitical risks sparked a global quest to diversify energy supplies, visible in the flow of investment away from OPEC regions on the map. One response unlocked non-OPEC oil through new exploration, and another elevated LNG from a niche solution into a strategic tool for countries seeking to reduce dependence on Middle Eastern oil. LNG matured into a commodity by meeting two market needs: reliable international base load power and flexible peak shaving. Case studies like Alaska to Japan show how LNG enabled long-distance supply where pipelines weren't viable, and peak shaving applications in the U.S. provided a way to cover seasonal demand spikes without costly new infrastructure. In 1986, the market struck back when Saudi Arabia shifted strategy, abandoning quotas to reclaim market share and triggering a price collapse. The resulting surge in production ended the era of OPEC fixed prices and ushered in a new paradigm of volatility where markets, not cartel decisions, increasingly set crude prices. The modern oil market is defined by enduring volatility and sensitivity to geopolitics, as the long-term price chart illustrates, with spikes tied to conflicts, financial crises, and market shocks. Predicting prices became notoriously difficult, with supply disruptions, demand swings, and shifting OPEC coordination all combining to create frequent and sometimes dramatic price movements. The shale revolution unleashed a global surplus of natural gas by unlocking previously inaccessible reserves through horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing. This technological leap transformed the U.S. from potential LNG importer to a major exporter, caused gas prices to decouple from oil, and reshaped global trade flows by dramatically increasing liquidity in the gas market. A persistent structural price gap between volatile diesel and relatively low-cost natural gas created a clear economic advantage for LNG in many applications. The sustained cost differential gives high-consumption users a strong incentive to switch fuels, offering lower energy bills, more predictable budgeting, and a compelling opportunity for fleet and industrial conversions. Technology improvements, falling gas prices, and supportive economics have driven the LNG's rise as a transportation fuel, with cleaner engines, conversions for industrial users, and use cases from maritime shipping to public transit. Despite growing commercial adoption, high upfront infrastructure and distribution costs remain the main barrier to broader penetration, especially for passenger vehicles. In short, oil and LNG are entering a new era of competition and coexistence rather than replacement. The oil industry created the first global energy system, while LNG emerged as a disruptive alternative that offers economic and environmental benefits. Going forward, their interaction will continue to shape trade, geopolitics, and the pace of the broader energy transition.